If this message found you, pause. Something rare is surfacing beneath your ordinary name, a subtle fracture in identity through which your real self begins to rise. The moment you stop seeing yourself as the body moving through the world and start sensing yourself as the current that animates it, everything you once called solid begins to move differently. Matter follows energy, energy follows awareness, and awareness always follows you. You may notice a pull inside your chest, a quiet recognition that you were never limited by skin or story. The body was a translator, not a prison, the temporary bridge between the infinite field you come from and the visible world you walk through. You've felt this before in flashes, when someone's presence shifted the whole atmosphere of a room, when silence carried more charge than words. That wasn't charisma, it was coherence. Every thought is a transmission, every emotion is a broadcast. You think not inside your skull, but inside a field that responds to your signal and rearranges reality around it. This is why identical actions yield different outcomes for different people, because life does not answer effort, it answers frequency. The moment you begin to see yourself as the vibration shaping experience rather than the object enduring it, reality bends to that recognition. You are not trying to become powerful. You are remembering that you already are vibration before flesh, intention before motion, energy before matter. The universe is not reacting to what you do. It is resonating with what you are. Feel that truth land inside you like a tuning fork aligning to a higher note. Let it hum quietly through your awareness. You do not live in a body, you live through it. You are the field that shapes everything it touches. And from that realization, a deeper question rises like an echo through the field. If everything around you bends to your frequency, then what exactly is your frequency made of? It begins with identity, the lens through which consciousness observes itself. The act of saying "I am this" sends a ripple through the quantum sea, commanding particles to organize around that declaration. What science calls the observer effect is not a distant experiment. It is the everyday phenomenon of being human. Every thought is an observation, every self-concept, a measurement that tells energy what to become. When you believe you are small, your energy compresses. It limits its expression to the scale of that belief. When you believe you are infinite, that same energy expands, activating potentials that were always there but waiting for permission. Reality isn't waiting to be convinced by your effort. It's waiting to be instructed by your perception. You've been told to act your way into a new identity, but that's backwards. Action is only the shadow of belief. The true movement happens in consciousness first, before time, before matter, before motion. What you call your life story is simply the record of how identity has vibrated through different chapters of your awareness. Each time you changed who you believed yourself to be, the world responded with rearranged possibilities. Think about it. Two people walk through the same door. One expects resistance and finds it. The other expects flow, and everything aligns. The door didn't change. The frequency behind the action did. Identity is the interface between energy and experience, the invisible code that tells the universe which version of reality to display. When you say, "I am unlucky," you send out a command for circumstances to confirm it. When you whisper, "I am guided," the field moves resources quietly into place to prove you right. But here's where it deepens. The field doesn't interpret language. It interprets vibration. You can chant affirmations endlessly, yet if beneath the words your body hums with disbelief, the field hears that dissonance louder than any phrase. The quantum world is ruthlessly honest. It mirrors your dominant state, not your desired one. So the work isn't about forcing belief. It's about harmonizing the signal. To shift identity, you must first observe the frequencies you're already transmitting. What story repeats itself through your emotions? What tone hums beneath your words? When you catch that vibration in the act, you hold the first instrument of transformation. Awareness itself begins to retune the field. This is the hidden physics of self-identity as a waveform, constantly collapsing into form through observation. The moment you identify differently, the moment you stop calling yourself the wounded, the unready, the waiting, you alter the equations beneath reality's skin. The photons reorganize, the probabilities rearrange. The version of the world that corresponds to the new signal begins to solidify around you, as naturally as a seed turns toward sunlight. Yet this process isn't a performance. It's intimacy. You don't command the field through arrogance. You commune with it through coherence. Every time you choose a thought that matches your highest truth, you are tuning into the frequency that already holds the life you desire. You become a resonant participant rather than a restless demander. Identity, then, is both the experiment and the observer, the hand that shapes the clay and the clay itself. As you evolve your sense of self, you evolve the architecture of reality. You might even feel it physically, a warmth in the heart, a lightness behind the eyes, a quiet expansion that whispers, "This is what alignment feels like." And in that subtle expansion, you realize the simplest yet most radical truth of all. You were never waiting for life to change. Life was waiting for you to observe differently. The moment you do, everything built on the old observation begins to fade, like mist dissolving under sunlight. From this point forward, every moment becomes a new measurement, every breath a recalibration of identity. And each new calibration carries a question: what version of you is the world responding to right now? And as that question settles, something extraordinary begins to occur. Awareness itself starts to behave like a living signal, not passive, not reactive, but creative. You feel it in those rare seconds when your attention sharpens and the air thickens around your focus, as if the invisible has become alert to your noticing. That's not imagination, that's resonance. The field listens where awareness lingers. Imagine dropping a single tone into a still lake. The ripples reach everything, touching even the farthest shore. Awareness works the same way. The direction of your attention is the tone, and the emotion behind it is the volume. A scattered mind sends noise. A coherent heart sends music. The field responds not to your logic, but to the rhythm you sustain. You may remember moments when your presence alone changed an atmosphere. Someone's anger softened, a room quieted, or a sudden clarity arrived that you couldn't explain. These were not coincidences. They were feedback loops, the universe reflecting your inner state in real time. When awareness stabilizes, reality synchronizes. When awareness wavers, reality fragments. Science might say everything vibrates, but mystics have always whispered vibration listens. Awareness doesn't simply observe, it organizes. It translates subtle intention into physical pattern. Each heartbeat, each breath is a small transmitter, broadcasting your current alignment. The quality of that broadcast, open or guarded, fearful or loving, determines how the field arranges its next movement. You can test this. Walk into a space carrying calm instead of concern. People will mirror your rhythm without knowing why. Technology might call it entrainment. Spirit calls it coherence. Either way, the outcome is the same. The invisible reorders itself to match your frequency. But here's the paradox. The more you try to control what the field does, the more static you create. Awareness cannot rewrite reality from tension, only from clarity. To influence the pattern, you must become transparent to it. Let attention move like water instead of grasping like fists. Observe without demand, and the field will reveal new formations effortlessly. Consider your thoughts as light beams. Where you shine them, form appears. Withdraw the beam and that form dissolves. This is not magic, it's mechanics. Energy consolidates where attention sustains. Life literally builds itself around your focus. So ask yourself, where is your light pointed most of the day? Toward worry, comparison, or possibility? Whatever holds your gaze becomes your gravity. The practice then is gentle mastery, learning to inhabit awareness with precision, to sense when your focus drifts toward fragmentation and to call it back, lovingly, to the center. Every return strengthens coherence. Every conscious breath rewires the field a little more toward order. Soon, you begin to feel it physically, that hum beneath your skin, that calm pulse behind your eyes. Awareness becomes substance. The air around you thickens with potential. It's as though life itself leans closer, awaiting instruction, not from your words, but from your state. And when awareness writes, reality reads instantly. You notice conversations aligning, timing improving, doors opening before you knock. Not because you forced destiny, but because you tuned yourself to the language it understands: frequency. The field doesn't translate impatience, but it perfectly echoes authenticity. Remember, awareness is not thought. Thought analyzes the pattern. Awareness moves it. The moment you drop from thinking about reality into directly feeling it, the field shifts gears. Like a flock changing direction midair, creation responds to the silent command of your coherence. This is why every spiritual teaching eventually points to presence. Presence is the most advanced technology of creation. It compresses time, it dissolves obstacles before they solidify. When you are fully aware, you're not waiting for reality to move, you are reality, moving. So breathe into that realization. Let awareness stretch beyond the edges of your body until even the air feels like an extension of you. Because it is. You are not inside the field. The field is inside your awareness. And as that awareness expands, everything you once chased begins turning gently to meet you. And when awareness stretches that far, something begins to break, not with violence, but with release. The old self starts to crumble quietly, like frost melting under morning light. You feel it first as unease, the strange disorientation that comes when your familiar limitations no longer fit. The mind scrambles to rebuild its old architecture, but the structure is dissolving faster than thought can grasp. This is not destruction. This is decoding. For years, you've lived as the character, the name, the job, the history. You rehearsed the same emotions, recited the same beliefs, carried the same subtle tensions in your body. Each one acted as a password, granting access to the same version of reality. But now, those passwords fail. They no longer open the old doors because the operating system of your identity is upgrading. You may notice memory itself feels different. Stories you once told about who you are begin to lose their charge. The moments that once defined you blur into neutrality. This is how the old frequency dies, not by being destroyed, but by being outgrown. When you no longer feed a vibration with attention, it starves quietly until it vanishes. In this in-between, the ego panics. It whispers that something's wrong. It wants to fix the cracks, rebuild the cage, restore the comfort of certainty. But if you can resist the reflex to patch the walls, you'll discover what waits beyond them: space. Infinite, unstructured, fertile space. The void that creation loves. Here's the secret: identity collapse isn't punishment. It's purification. It's the moment when false signals drop so your true frequency can finally come through. Every fear that surfaces now is not an enemy, but an echo leaving the system. You are not losing yourself, you are losing distortion. And yet the paradox deepens to release the old self. You can't fight it. Resistance is still a form of attachment. The moment you wrestle the illusion, you anchor it. Instead, you watch it unravel. You breathe, you allow, you bless it for keeping you safe when you didn't yet remember your power. Then, gently, you step beyond it. You might feel waves of exhaustion or bursts of emotion. These are simply frequencies recalibrating. The nervous system is learning to operate in wider bandwidths of consciousness. Think of it as moving from a small radio station to a global broadcast tower. At first, the signals distort, then clarity arrives. Every collapse of identity is followed by a silence that feels infinite. That silence is not absence, it's reboot. It's the still point where the next reality begins to take shape. Matter hesitates as energy reorganizes. Time slows as awareness rewrites its coordinates. You are literally watching the physics of transformation from the inside out. Most people flee this phase. They try to rebuild too soon, to fill the void with new definitions. But the ones who wait, who breathe through the empty, discover the deeper current. They realize the collapse wasn't a loss. It was the field clearing interference. The identity that dissolves is not your essence. It's the distortion that once kept your essence small enough to survive. When that distortion drops, you meet yourself unfiltered, boundless, wordless, familiar yet entirely new. You become the witness watching awareness witness itself. And in that mirror within a mirror moment, the ego bows. It understands it was never the master, only the mask. Let the collapse finish its work. Let every untrue version of you fall away without ceremony. The freedom that follows will not roar, it will hum softly, steadily, like the tone that holds galaxies together. And as the dust of the old self settles, something luminous begins to emerge through the clearing, a presence untouched by memory, a consciousness unbound by narrative, the one you've always been, patiently waiting beneath the noise. From that clearing, language itself changes. You begin to sense that communication was never limited to words. Vibration has been speaking long before the tongue learned sound. Every pulse of emotion, every flicker of thought, every subtle tension in the heart, these are syllables in a language older than speech. The universe listens not to vocabulary, but to resonance. Look closely, and you'll see it everywhere in the way laughter lifts the atmosphere of a room, in the way grief thickens the air until silence becomes sacred, in the way gratitude reorganizes coincidence into synchronicity. These are not poetic exaggerations. They are demonstrations of a universal syntax. Frequency is grammar, emotion is tone, intention is meaning. What we call manifestation is simply translation. You speak through your frequency and reality translates it into experience. When your vibration is scattered, the translation distorts. Results arrive mismatched, delayed, or fractured. But when your inner signal becomes coherent, when your emotional state, your thoughts, and your body align around the same note, the field delivers with precision, not as reward, but as reflection. This is why affirmations alone cannot override fear, and why rituals lose power when performed mechanically. The universe doesn't respond to repetition. It responds to resonance. You can whisper a truth 1,000 times and still emit contradiction if the deeper vibration remains unchanged. But when you feel a single sentence with total congruence, the field moves instantly. So ask yourself, what frequency are you fluent in? Not by what you say you believe, but by what your nervous system broadcasts when no one's watching. Do you radiate scarcity, waiting for proof of abundance? Do you emit doubt while demanding clarity? The field is impartial. It doesn't moralize, it mirrors. It receives your dominant broadcast and converts it into form. To change the conversation, you don't need to speak louder, you need to tune finer. Every emotion is feedback, not flaw. It tells you what station you're transmitting from. Anger says, "My power feels misplaced." Fear says, "My vision is distorted." Peace says, "Alignment achieved." When you stop judging emotions as enemies and start hearing them as frequencies, you become bilingual, fluent in both human feeling and cosmic feedback. You may have felt it in meditation or during sudden moments of awe, that quiet hum that seems to vibrate behind everything. It's not external sound, it's the baseline note of existence, the carrier wave of consciousness itself. When your internal frequency harmonizes with that hum, you experience what mystics call grace and scientists call coherence. You step into flow not because you forced direction, but because you matched the rhythm of the universe. And the moment you align, response becomes immediate. The right people call. The timing perfects itself. What once felt like coincidence begins to feel like conversation. This is the dialogue of vibration, instant, effortless, precise. But here lies the sacred caution power. Without awareness becomes noise. The point is not to manipulate reality, but to communicate with it honestly. To feel deeply enough that your vibration tells the truth. Authentic frequency is stronger than any technique because truth vibrates cleanly. When your inner tone matches your outer expression, you become a living translation of the universal language. From this space, even silence speaks. You no longer need to announce intentions. The field reads them before you act. People feel your clarity before you explain it. Opportunities recognize you before you seek them. It's as if reality has learned your dialect and begins completing your sentences. And yet, you remain humble. Because you realize this language isn't yours alone, it belongs to everything that exists. You're not the author of vibration, you're a phrase in its ongoing sentence. To speak it well is to remember your place in the harmony. So, let the next breath be your punctuation. Let every heartbeat send a message of coherence. Let your life become a broadcast so pure that even chaos must translate into order. Because when vibration becomes your native language, reality stops resisting, it starts replying. And as you begin to feel vibration as language, you start to see life as mirror. Every reflection is a translation of your current frequency into form, a feedback image cast by your own state of being. The mirror never judges, it only reveals. Look close enough, and you'll find that every conflict, every delay, every joy, and every miracle carries one simple message. This is you, reflected. At first, this truth stings. The ego wants a world that misbehaves independently, so it can stay innocent of responsibility. But the mirror principle dismantles that illusion. It shows that your outer life is not separate from your inner landscape. It is that landscape rendered visible. The field has no outside. What you experience as environment is simply your vibration projected outward. You can test this instantly. Spend a day carrying quiet resentment, and you'll notice agitation everywhere. Spend the next day walking with gratitude, and watch how effortlessly grace finds you. It's not luck, it's resonance, replayed in reverse. The universe isn't sending moods toward you, it's echoing the ones you radiate. Think of reality as liquid glass. Your thoughts are movements across its surface. Each emotional wave distorts or clarifies the reflection you see. When you're angry, the surface trembles, everything appears fragmented. When you're peaceful, the surface stills, revealing perfect clarity. The world didn't become chaotic or calm, your reflection did. This is why changing circumstances rarely works unless the inner vibration changes first. You can polish the mirror, rearrange the furniture in the reflection, or try to manipulate what appears, but until the original frequency shifts, the image remains the same. The outer cannot outpace the inner. Matter can only echo energy. But this is also your liberation, because the moment you grasp that the mirror is responsive, you stop pleading with the image and start adjusting the source. You stop asking, "Why is life doing this to me?" and begin asking, "What is this showing me about my vibration?" That question turns victimhood into mastery. At the deepest level, even the difficult reflections become sacred teachers. The friend who triggers your insecurity, the failure that tests your patience, the delay that stretches your faith, all of them are mirrors polished by friction. They reveal frequencies still asking for coherence. Each uncomfortable moment is the field whispering, "Here is where you are still vibrating below your truth." And when you meet those reflections with curiosity instead of resistance, they transform instantly. The mirror softens. The distortion releases. Your external world begins to realign, not because you demanded change, but because you stopped denying resonance. Awareness replaces blame, and the reflection clears. This is the essence of energetic responsibility, to own that what appears out there is a perfect translation of what vibrates in here. Not punishment precision, not karma calibration. Life doesn't scold, it tunes. Every event invites you to adjust your internal frequency until it sings in harmony with the reality that you wish to live. Once you practice this long enough, reflection becomes revelation. You begin to love the mirror. Even chaos becomes a messenger. You stop fearing negative experiences because you understand they can only amplify what's unresolved for healing. You meet them with the same gratitude you offer blessings, because both are confirmations that the field is listening. Then, something remarkable happens. The mirror stops feeling like out there entirely. The boundary between self and world thins until it vanishes. Every face becomes your own. Every movement, an echo of your pulse. You realize that the universe was never trying to test you. It was trying to show you yourself in infinite forms. When the mirror principle truly lands, you stop performing for reflection. You become transparent to it. Life reflects your coherence instantly, like light bouncing off a calm lake. And in that serene clarity, you witness the ultimate secret. The reflection has always been love, waiting for you to recognize its shape. And from that still, mirrored lake, another truth ripples outward. You were never meant to chase. You were designed to attract. Magnetism is the natural language of coherence, the quiet authority of energy that knows itself. When your vibration steadies, life orbits around you like metal drawn to a field. What you once ran after begins arriving unannounced. What you once feared losing, you simply outgrow. Look at nature. The sun doesn't pursue the planets. It holds its position, radiant and still, and the orbits arrange themselves in reverence. The flower doesn't hunt the bee. It radiates scent and color, a frequency of invitation. Attraction is the result of authenticity. Nothing more, nothing less. You have been conditioned to believe that movement equals progress, that grinding equals growth. But the energetic self understands that alignment, not effort, is the true engine of manifestation. You do not pull life closer by sprinting toward it. You draw it in by resonating with it. Frequency, not force. Presence, not pursuit. To live magnetically, you begin by dropping the frantic frequency of need. Need repels because it announces separation. It tells the field, "I don't have it yet." Gratitude, on the other hand, magnetizes because it signals possession. It declares, "I already hold it within me." The field matches your signal accordingly. Think of two tuning forks. Strike one, and the other begins to sing at the same pitch. That's coherence. You don't convince reality to sing your song, you simply become the note you wish to hear. The field has no choice but to harmonize. This is also why chasing always hurts. When you chase, you emit the frequency of lack. When you rest in certainty, you broadcast the frequency of completion. And reality, ever the obedient mirror, returns exactly what it hears. There's a subtle art to this. Magnetic living isn't passivity, it's precision. It's action guided by resonance rather than fear. You still move, but the movement feels like flow, not force. You still work, but the work feels like play, not survival. Magnetism means you act from alignment, not for validation. You can feel the difference. One tightens the chest, the other opens it. One burns your energy, the other amplifies it. When you are magnetic, timing becomes orchestral. Every event, every person, every conversation arriving exactly on cue, as if life itself is choreographed to your vibration. And in moments of delay, because even magnets experience distance, your trust becomes the proof of your mastery. The unawakened mind panics when manifestations take time, interpreting silence as rejection. But the magnetic mind understands delay as calibration. The universe doesn't deny what matches you, it perfects it. The gap between desire and arrival is simply the field fine-tuning your resonance. So, during those quiet stretches, you do not spiral into doubt, you stabilize your signal. You return to coherence. You remind yourself it's aligning, not absent. Every breath becomes a statement of certainty, every heartbeat a pulse of readiness. Eventually, you begin to see magnetism everywhere, not as miracle, but as mechanism. A smile pulls kindness. Fear attracts proof of danger. Love magnetizes connection. The field is a cosmic algorithm, matching vibration to vibration with unerring precision. What you call destiny is simply the momentum of your dominant frequency. And here lies the empowerment. You don't have to force reality to hear you louder. You only have to tune yourself clearer. The magnetic self doesn't shout across the cosmos. It hums a single, unwavering tone of truth. And because truth vibrates cleanly, reality cannot ignore it. So stop chasing, stand in your field, radiate what you wish to receive. Watch as life begins orbiting around your stillness, not your striving. The planets of opportunity, relationship, and timing all respond to the same law. Coherence gravitates to coherence. Be the sun, not the seeker. Be the signal, not the noise. And as you hold that vibration, the universe will move heaven and earth to meet your tone. And once you've mastered stillness as magnetism, something subtler awakens the awareness that time itself begins to bend around coherence. You are no longer walking toward your future, you are walking from it. Each decision becomes a ripple from a reality that already exists. Each breath a confirmation of alignment with a timeline your soul has already chosen. This is not imagination, it's geometry. Energy doesn't move in straight lines, it loops, folds, and overlaps like light refracted through glass. When your frequency stabilizes at a higher resonance, you begin receiving signals from that frequency's timeline. Intuition spikes, synchronicities multiply, and guidance arrives faster than thought. You're not predicting the future, you're remembering it. Consider this: every potential version of you already exists in the field. The confident you, the healed you, the abundant you, they are all broadcasting simultaneously, like radio stations layered within the same air. Your consciousness is the tuner. The moment you emotionally align with one frequency, you start living in that broadcast. So when you visualize your future self, you're not pretending, you're calibrating. You're tuning into the vibration of the version who already lives that reality. The more vividly you feel it, the more precisely your present reorganizes to match it. This is why quantum thinkers talk about collapsing timelines. They're describing what mystics have always known, that reality doesn't unfold, it updates. Each time your identity changes, your timeline refreshes, old probabilities disappear, new synchronicities appear. What you call miracle is simply the physical catching up to the frequency you've stabilized in. But living from the future requires courage, because your senses lag behind your signal. The evidence of the new timeline arrives last, not first. You must hold the vibration of completion while the world still shows remnants of the old story. That's the test, though it's not punishment, it's integration. The field is asking, can you embody the frequency before you see the proof? The energetic self says yes. It chooses from memory, not from fear. It moves as though the outcome is already secured. And paradoxically, that certainty is what magnetizes the outcome faster. The more you behave as if it's done, the less distance time has to cover. Walking from the future means reversing the emotional sequence that most people live by. They wait for results to feel gratitude, for evidence to feel peace. But the awakened one feels gratitude first and lets evidence arise as an echo. They feel abundance first, then watch opportunity organize itself accordingly. Feelings become the cause, not the consequence. You can practice this anywhere. Before you start a project, ask if it were already successful. How would I move? Before you enter a room, breathe the confidence of your future self into your posture. Before you make a decision, let the version of you, who has already arrived, whisper the answer. This isn't pretending. It's precise, energetic architecture. And when you live this way long enough, something extraordinary happens. Time begins to obey you differently. Delays compress. Synchronicities stack. Situations fold into place with mathematical grace. You sense you've stepped out of sequence, yet everything feels perfectly timed. Because you have. You're walking from a point the rest of the world hasn't reached yet, but will. This is what ancient mystics meant when they spoke of faith. Not blind hope, but vibrational certainty. Not waiting for the divine to deliver, but walking with the divine frequency already inside your stride. Faith is not believing something will happen, it's knowing it already has in the field. So close your eyes and feel it, the version of you who has already arrived. Notice their breath, their calm, their clarity. That presence is not future, it's fact. You are simply synchronizing to it. Walk as that being now. Speak from that knowing now. Let every step declare, I am the timeline fulfilled. Because when you walk from the future no longer needs to chase you. It simply recognizes its reflection and bows. And when you begin to walk from that future self, you'll notice something else. Reality flickers. Moments of alignment feel crystalline, electric, irrefutable. Then, without warning, the old world tries to reclaim you. Old thoughts sneak back in like ghosts, whispering. Was it real? This is the most delicate phase, not the leap. But the landing, stabilization, shifting timelines is effortless. Maintaining them is art. The universe can deliver new frequencies instantly, but your nervous system still carries the inertia of the old vibration. Integration means teaching your body to recognize the new reality as safe, familiar, and true. Until then, it will default to what it knows, even if what it knows was painful. You'll feel it as oscillation, one moment radiant, the next doubtful, one day inspired, the next heavy. That's not regression, it's recalibration. Imagine two radio signals overlapping until only one remains clear. You are that in-between static. Every breath of trust turns the dial toward coherence. Every moment of fear pulls it back to distortion. The key to stabilization isn't control. It's consistency of state. You become the new frequency by normalizing it. not by chasing its high. The extraordinary must become ordinary. When gratitude stops being an event and becomes your baseline, when calm no longer requires proof, when love is no longer reserved for the convenient, that's when the new timeline locks in. The old identity will test your steadiness. It will present you with mirrors of your former self, familiar people, habits, or circumstances that echo who you used to be. Don't fight them, thank them. They are simply the last signals of a collapsing broadcast. The way you respond determines which signal wins. React, and you return to the old timeline. Remain coherent, and it dissolves on its own. Expectation is your stabilizer. Hope whispers maybe. Expectation declares already. The field responds to the latter. Hope carries a tremor of separation. Expectation hums with unity. So when you catch yourself waiting, shift from anticipation to embodiment. Stop watching for the new timeline to prove itself, become its proof. You'll know you're stabilizing when silence stops feeling like absence and begins feeling like alignment. The quiet no longer scares you because you sense the machinery beneath it, unseen forces rearranging matter at your command. Delay becomes a sacred pulse between breaths, a space where reality updates its coordinates. And then, another subtle mastery emerges, releasing attachment to outcomes while remaining loyal to vibration. It sounds paradoxical, yet it's the highest balance. You hold the frequency of completion without demanding when or how it arrives. This is the trust that bends probability itself. Think of it like gravity. You don't wake each morning hoping gravity will work. You expect it. That's how stabilized energy behaves. You stop hoping for alignment, you expect it. You live as if it's law. And because the field mirrors certainty faster than desire, the new timeline becomes the only one that can sustain you. But stabilization also requires shedding what cannot travel. Old emotions may surface for release. You might feel grief for identities you've outgrown. That's natural. Every expansion leaves an echo behind. Let those feelings pass through you without narrative. Tears are frequencies exiting the body. Eventually, the static fades. The highs and lows smooth into one coherent hum. You feel grounded, unshakable, quietly powerful. External chaos loses its grip because your internal signal no longer negotiates with fear. You walk through uncertainty with the posture of inevitability. The field takes its cue from that posture and locks your timeline accordingly. So if you find yourself slipping, remember, stability is not perfection, it's persistence. Return to coherence again and again until returning becomes living. This is how the new world becomes your home, not through miracles descending, but through identity that no longer wavers. And as this stabilization anchors, something profound occurs. The future stops being a destination and becomes your natural gravity. You don't hold it anymore, it holds you. And once stability becomes your default hum, something timeless awakens the quiet power of the unshakable field. It doesn't roar, it doesn't demand, it doesn't even announce itself. It simply exists, radiating an order so precise that reality must conform to it. This is the state the ancients called mastery. Not dominance, not control, but coherence, so absolute that force becomes unnecessary. You begin to notice the difference immediately. The body feels lighter but denser with presence. Words carry more gravity, yet fewer are needed. People sense something in you they can't name, a stillness that rearranges the room. It's not charm, it's calibration. Every particle around you aligns to the rhythm of your field. This is the real secret behind influence. Power isn't about projection, it's about proportion. The greater your coherence, the wider your radius of impact. You've felt it around others, those rare souls whose calm feels like gravity, whose silence quiets noise. That is the resonance of an anchored identity. They do not bend with the wind because they have become the atmosphere. Quiet power comes from total energetic honesty. You no longer pretend positivity while vibrating fear. You no longer disguise control as faith. Everything inside you moves in one direction: truth. And truth is heavy enough to bend time. This is why the unshakable field feels different. It doesn't fight resistance, it neutralizes it. When coherence meets chaos, chaos reorders. When certainty meets doubt, doubt dissolves. You stop taking opposition personally because you realize the field is self-correcting. The moment you stop reacting, distortion loses fuel. From this place, your manifestations mature. You no longer chase rapid change. You prefer elegant unfolding. You stop needing to be seen because you've become the seeing. The unshakable field doesn't advertise progress. It demonstrates it through peace. This peace isn't passive. It's the strongest frequency in existence. Nothing stands against it because nothing is separate from it. And here's the paradox of final mastery. The more powerful your energy becomes, the gentler your presence feels. You speak softly because you no longer need to convince. You move slowly because speed becomes irrelevant. You act with precision because there's nothing to prove. Power without peace is performance. Power with peace is presence. You also begin to understand why reality obeys you now, not because you conquered it, but because you harmonized with it. You are no longer a fragment arguing with the whole. You are the whole remembering its shape through you. The field doesn't distinguish between inner and outer anymore. Your awareness has become its center of gravity. This is the ultimate coherence. Your mind and heart vibrate in unison. Your actions emerge from clarity instead of need, and the universe flows through your gestures like breath through open lungs. You are not performing spirituality. You are embodying physics. Matter bends because coherence leaves it no alternative. Quiet power feels like simplicity, returning after centuries of noise. You wake up and notice that decisions make themselves. Intuition isn't a whisper anymore, it's a current, carrying you effortlessly through timing and chance. The world seems to greet you, not challenge you. And the more you surrender to this rhythm, the more seamlessly life unfolds. Soon, you stop even calling it manifestation. You just call it living. The extraordinary becomes normal. The miraculous becomes mechanical. Every thought feels like architecture, every emotion, a brushstroke on the canvas of the real. This is where awakening ceases to be an event and becomes a lifestyle. You walk as the frequency you once sought. You breathe as the field that once guided you. You move not to prove alignment, but to express it. And when you finally stand still inside that realization, the universe itself exhales through you, calm, complete, precise. The reflection clears, the chase ends, and you see what was true all along. There was never distance between you and creation. There was only noise, and now there is only tone. And now, as that final tone lingers, the story folds back into silence. What began as a question, what if I am energy, not matter, ends as knowing. The words that carried you here were never instructions. They were mirrors reflecting your own remembering. You were never taught to bend reality. You were designed to, and all it ever required was coherence. Take a breath. Feel how simple it's become. Awareness moves through you like light through clear glass. No resistance, no waiting. Just quiet participation in a universe that listens through vibration, speaks through reflection, and loves through resonance. You may notice that everything feels slower now, yet more alive. That's the paradox of alignment stillness that moves worlds. When you rest inside the frequency of your truth, action becomes effortless. Choices unfold like petals, each one inevitable, each one graceful. You no longer chase outcomes because outcomes have begun chasing you. The field is not something you command, it's something you commune with. The more you relax into that dialogue, the more fluent it becomes. Reality stops being an obstacle course and starts becoming an orchestra, one that was waiting for your signal to begin. So let this moment be your closing note and your opening hum. Let the quiet between your thoughts be proof that nothing needs to be added for you to be complete. The shift has already happened. Your timeline is already tuned. All that remains is to live from the vibration that knows. And if tomorrow feels ordinary, remember that's what mastery looks like. The miraculous disguised as routine. The infinite speaking softly through the finite. You no longer need signs because you've become one. Hold that awareness gently in your chest as you move through your day. Every glance, every breath, every step is an opportunity to transmit the frequency of truth. I am energy shaping matter. I am coherence remembering itself. Stay there, not striving, just vibrating. That is the quiet revolution. That is the new reality.